It's important that we pay attention more now than ever, because right now, as our politicians are getting fat, rich, and happy, China and Russia are besties, and that's a problem. Not only for the world, but for America's national security. I promise you that. Hey, what's going on, guys? Mike Glover here. Welcome back to Prep Life. And I'm obviously not in my home studio, and I am obviously wearing too small of a shirt. I apologize for both, but I'm on the road. I'm on the road, and I decided to take my media kit with me because I want to be able to film on the road. It's important to me, especially starting June 6th, Monday through Friday. I'll be doing a short show called Living Your Prep Life, where I'm giving you news on everything preparedness related on our application, the Fieldcraft Survival app. It's the same day my book drops, June 6th. Nothing changes here, by the way. We'll still be doing Prep Life on my YouTube channel, but wanted to get used to doing this in the field, and I know you guys can't miss Prep Life, so make sure you subscribe, hit the notification tab, all that good stuff. Tell your buddies. Today, the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services tweeted, "Gather supplies for a go bag, prep for a power outage, and if told by officials to evacuate, don't wait." Good advice. Rare for the government of California, but now's the time to make sure you and your family are prepared. I mean, yesterday or last week or the month prior, that should have been the time to think about preparedness, but all these things are important, especially because California is dealing now with their 12th atmospheric river. Now, I am not a meteorologist, I am not an expert at weather, but what I can tell you is this band of weather that brings a ton of rain, ton of snow, depending on the temperature, is also ripping through Utah. I mean, Heber City, Utah, where I live, the high over the next 10 days is in the 30s. Just so you understand, like the high in March at best is in the 50s. At worst, it's like in the 40s. And we're not gonna go above 35 degrees in the next 10 days, which is like April. So we're dealing with something very unique, not in the world. I mean, this happens all the time. It's just this highway is now running over California and through Utah. What usually would be dissipated by the Sierras in California is now making its way through and having profound impact in Utah, where we're getting like the best snow we've ever had in the history of snow. Now that's good for skiers, but if you're in California and you're not around ski resorts and you don't ski at all, then it's probably not good. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people have been affected by this recently by the floods. San Bernardino, we had civilians stuck on the mountain for weeks. Some are still stuck on the mountain. 12 foot of snow that's now getting rained on, turning into torrential floods that are washing downhill. There's plenty of hills in California. So a whole bunch of reasons why to get into preparedness, but that's happening right now. I mean, they're getting another blast of it. How can you prepare? Well, you got to be educated on preparedness. I'm not trying to pitch you or sell you on anything. You can go to our YouTube, the Fieldcraft Survival channel, see plenty of videos on survival. You could also go to our podcast, the Fieldcraft Survival podcast, for plenty of free resources for everything preparedness. Preparedness is a horrible business idea. It's great if you want to live profound purpose in teaching and educating people. Please take the time and opportunity to do that. Also wanted to talk about this Xi and Putin visit. So the president of China visits with Putin, and they have a meeting talking about how they're going to come together and they're going to do great things. This is not good for America. What you should understand is, like, if you stopped right now and thought about all the things that you're wearing or all the things that are around you in this hotel room, I guarantee this lamp, that lamp, the lamp in front of me, the table, here, look, this is made in China. I don't even know what that is. It's made in China. So why does that mean something to you? Well, if you virtue signal and say, well, that doesn't mean anything to me because I buy American made, you're probably watching me on a Chinese made TV, or you're using a piece of technology like a cell phone that was made in China with parts that were made in China. So let's get past that. Let's just like set that aside. Let's talk about China. Something that's interesting that I researched recently was China lost 14 million people in World War II as an ally. If you ask some people that were uneducated, they'd probably be like, yeah, we were at war with China. No, 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 no. We're at war with the Germans, the Italians, and the Japanese. So China lost 14 million people in World War II. Why is this forgotten? It's a good article that I found on PSMAG, or Pacific Standard, and it talks about some of the statistics, including the scale of China's involvement in the war. It was massive. Chiang, for example, fielded 4 million troops at the nationalist height, while China as a whole lost an estimated 14 million in the war. Had China folded, Japan's capacity to fight the US or even the Soviets would have been vastly amplified. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important to understand history. Now, here's what happened. Because we didn't have our ship together, this is 1941 to 1945, World War II. By the way, China was one of the first to jump on the bandwagon, like the Allies bandwagon, okay? And so after all this transpires, we kick Japan out of Korea. Now we have a peninsula that's off of China that the Japanese used to own, and now they're out of there. And now the Chinese and the Russians who want to implement communism are fighting for it, but not fighting directly for it. So we are involved in a proxy war in the Korean War. That kicks off really in the late 40s, but officially kicks off in 1950. So we're in this proxy war against Russia and China because we're trying to push democracy and freedom across the globe, and they're trying to push communism. So we're at war with communism. This started the Cold War. So when we look at this circumstance, why does it matter in the totality of preparedness? Well, because if we don't understand history and we don't understand how this unfolds, it could unfold bad, guys. Here's what the Second Amendment is for. And a good tell what the Second Amendment is and is for is look at our national security strategy abroad. So if you were to look at our national security strategy and tactics abroad, what is it? Well, I've been involved personally, Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa for sure, and then I guess through proxy, Yemen, Pakistan, back in Iraq, through my government contracting days. I was heavily involved in providing guns, ammunition, and training to foreign countries, tyrannically oppressed people. Like Afghanistan's a good case in point, because now it's going to end up like the Korean War, the forgotten war, where we left 7,800 Americans behind. We kind of did that in Afghanistan in a way. But if you think about it, I went to Afghanistan and there was no special forces. There was no commandos. It didn't exist as a unit. In fact, we disbanded the existing army or whatever it was, right? We did the same thing in Iraq, by the way. So we stood up everything from scratch. But before we did that, you know what we did? I personally was involved in this. We recruited, assessed and recruited Afghan civilians and turned them into militias. And then we gave them guns and ammunition. Why is that important? Well, that's how you start the security and sovereignty of a country, by gaining security through its people. Why did those people end up in those positions in the first place? Because they didn't have guns or ammunition or training. So they were dictated, they were oppressed. And so herein lies the point. The point is, all of this matters in a geopolitical sense because we are dealing with socio-economic issues that we've never seen before. Bank collapses, yeah, we've seen those, but that's not normal, right? Homelessness, drug addictions, crime, suicide, teen suicide, the list goes on. All those statistics are up. Social media discourse is insane. I can't post anything. I don't think anybody could post anything, even trying to be positive, without all of this drama. And who's feeding into this drama? Certainly the countries that want to do us harm. Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, the list goes on. So if we're looking at our security, what we have as a security, as a base, as the contingency, is us, American citizens. because we're the superpower. And I've said this before, but I'm just trying to get down into the nuance a little bit so you understand the importance of arming yourself and training yourself, right? Like not only just arming yourself, but preparing yourself in all elements of what this potentially could unfold into. I do not want a world war, but I know like hell, I'm going to fight. People that I work with are going to fight. People who have been trained by Fieldcraft Survival are going to fight. And nobody thought this was even a thing. Like nobody could have told you that, yeah, Ukraine is going to be a thing. They're going to be handing out AK-47s to middle-aged men and anybody, really anybody, who would take a firearm and fight for their freedom. And we're virtue signaling about that, but we're not fighting for our own freedoms. We're not doing it in the way that we understand our legislative processes, the way we want to get involved in our own community, even the way that we police our own homes. Like if you're showing up to my course and you have $2,500 worth of kit on your gun belt, you got a $3,000 pistol, but you're morbidly obese, that's a problem. So this whole idea and concept of preparedness is very important now more than ever, because our incompetence as an administration and foreseeably for the next 2 years as a country is going to end us in the worst case scenario. It will. It will. Whether it's socioeconomic collapse in the country that's amplified by other foreign actors, and then you have these issues where you're trying to defend yourself on a city street against evil people who are already exploiting all the weakness. Like all these evil people who are committing crimes, they're just lying dormant. It's like the zombie apocalypse about to happen. There is no cure to this. These evil people are just breeding like crazy, and they'll continue to take advantage of innocent people because that's how the history of humanity has existed. So why would that matter? Well, if the socioeconomic issue collapses infrastructure, which means security, because security is not doing their job anyway because of woke politics, we saw what a glimpse of that looks like. Can you imagine the worst case of that? Where there are, like Greg says, there's no one coming to save you? Like nobody at all. Not because they won't do it, but because they're worried about securing their own families because nobody's going to do it. And you think the Army or the National Guard is going to handle that? They're going to be taking care of their own stuff too. If I was in the Army and the country was falling apart and my family's security was at risk, you think I'm going to stand on a line against Americans? No, not at all. I'm going to be taking care of what I love most, my family. So all of these things are important. It's why we should get educated. It's why we should fight in legislation. This Colorado Act that just got dropped, dude, why are we not paying attention to this stuff? Please pay attention. Find the links and all that stuff below. It's important that we pay attention more now than ever, because right now, as our politicians are getting fat, rich, and happy, China and Russia are now besties. And that's a problem, not only for the world, but for America's national security. I promise you that. I promise you that. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll have a breakout session this week. Once I get back to the house, I'll make sure I have a breakout session, do a little bit more distilled content on the topics. I appreciate you guys tuning in to Prep Life. Until next time, peace out.